Hey, welcome to selling or buying a house that needs work. See, 3 simple steps to make it easy. So is this you? Do you want to sell or buy a house that needs work, but you're confused about where to start? Maybe you want to buy a house, but you've been priced out of the market. So you may be currently renting, or you may be living in a house that's smaller than you like, or a different area of town than you like, but the area of town that you want to move to, or the size of house that you want or need, are just too expensive now. Perhaps you need to sell a house, but you don't have the time or money to complete the repairs. It could be anything from minor updating to major renovation and repair, and you may not have the expertise, or you may not have the money to pay somebody to do it, and but you do need to sell, or you need to move for some reason. You're willing to buy a house that needs work, but you're afraid of overpaying. So maybe you know how to do some of the work, or you're willing to pay somebody. Maybe you're willing to move into a house and renovate it as you go, but you don't want to pay for a house that's ready to move into and fully updated or renovated, and pay for that type of a price when you're getting a house that needs work. So you want to make sure that you pay the right price for the level of repairs that need to be done. And last but not least, I'm sure there are other categories, but maybe you're interested in real estate investing, but you're not sure who to go to for advice. And there's no shortage of gurus out there and seminars and TV shows, but you probably know that it's not as easy as they make it look on TV, and you have an idea that there's a lot more to it than what they wrap up in a half an hour or an hour TV show. Just a little background on myself. I started flipping HUD homes in 2011. And a HUD home is just a property that was purchased with an FHA loan, a government-backed loan. And then it went through foreclosure and went back to, well, the government in this case, so it went to HUD. So I bought and sold. I started with buying and selling those properties for investment purposes or for a profit, for a business. In 2012, I flipped dozens of houses, both HUD properties and properties that we purchased in auction in several states, mostly over in I guess that'd be more toward the south, Alabama, North and South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky. And then I lost money on houses by not paying attention to the 3 steps that we're going to talk about today. So you can learn from my mistake. Experience doesn't necessarily make you wiser, but learning from experience makes you wiser. And it's certainly better if you can learn from someone else's experience. Starting in 2013, I worked and have till now worked directly with homeowners. So I've bought and sold houses directly with individuals, not once it was at the auction or it already gone back to the lender. And this is what I believe here. Nobody should have to experience figuring out real estate on their own. Somebody else has already been there, done that, and paid the price. Some of the pitfalls of selling or buying a house that needs work. Really big one is spending more money on repairs than expected or than you should. So getting an accurate estimate of repair costs up front and then sticking to that budget. Not renovating beyond the neighborhood. Now realize if it's a property that you're going to live in, yes, you can renovate it however you want, but it's important to at least know that if the neighborhood is not granite countertops and you put in granite countertops, then you are running the risk of putting money in that you're not going to get out, that won't be reflected when you sell the property. The next pitfall is overestimating value, another big one. So either when selling a property or looking at a property to purchase, going with the highest estimate of what it's going to be worth when it's fixed up. And a lot of times real estate agents will give a high price, and there's a couple of reasons for this. One, they think or they know that you want to sell your property for as high a price as possible if you're selling, and they also know that they want to make as much money on a commission as possible. However, by going too high, you're gonna pay a high price for that, and it's you, the seller, that pays the highest price for that, not the agent. Because remember, every $10,000 price reduction at 3% commission, and really most agents make a half of that because they're paying their principal broker. So 1.5%. So every $10,000 price drop, they're losing $150. You're losing $10,000. Not to mention the time on market, and just that usually leads to a lower selling price, and it's just taking you longer to sell your house. So that's a big mistake there. And then the last one, not establishing a fair price. If you're selling a property, again, not getting a good price on that right from the get-go. And if you're purchasing the property, if you are too high, that can cause you to miss an opportunity. And if you're too low, of course, that can cause you to miss an opportunity as well. So getting to a reasonable price, a reasonable range at least, can really give you the edge. So what's success look like? Either selling or buying a house that needs work. Number one is relief from frustration. If you have a property that needs work and you need to sell, or you've been wanting to get into a house, you finally now can be done with that frustration. If you're looking for a house, you can be a homeowner now. You really can get a sense of accomplishment through a win-win. So when someone's selling a property that needs work and someone wants to purchase a property that needs work, and you can come together both with an idea of what it's going to be worth once it's fixed up, how much it's going to cost to fix it up, and agree on a fair and reasonable price, it's really a great transaction. You can really both walk away feeling like you accomplished something. And of course, I guess another category to put on here, if you're an investor or a real estate investor or want to be, you have a start to a new career. There's, of course, many steps, but these are the three main steps when you're selling or buying a house that needs work. The first is determine the value after the repairs are done. We call that the after repair value, after it's been fixed up. The second is to estimate the repair cost, and this could again just be updating, could be renovations, we'll just call it repairs. And then the third is to establish a price, either to sell or to purchase the property at. So first we need to determine the value of the property after the repairs are done. So the question is, what's it going to be worth once it's fixed up? Now this is part science and part art. The science part is really going to be based on other properties that have sold, how much they've sold, how many dollars per square foot. At some point, though, you are getting into a little bit of art. It's going to be a little bit subjective. because you're going to be assigning a value to certain characteristics of the house and the neighborhood that are really, they're not totally objective, and you're not going to know for sure until you actually sell the property or until you actually make an offer on the property. But if you at least start with this concept, this idea, you're going to have a good ballpark that you're going to be in, where you're going to be close, and again, that'll give you the edge and help you not miss an opportunity, as opposed to just coming in really without any basis. It's going to help you eliminate most of the risk, again, because it is part art, but it will help you eliminate most of the risk. And you can't eliminate all risk in anything. And but if you can eliminate most of it, that's a pretty good bet. So again, the alternative, if you have a house you need to sell that needs work, the alternative, the way to eliminate maybe more risk, but that's to do all the work, right? So do all the repairs, but you still have risk there because you run the risk of having done the repairs, and you may have spent money that you're not going to get back. And if you're purchasing a house that needs work, you could think that maybe you're going to eliminate the risk by purchasing a new house, a brand new house, or a fully renovated house. But there you run the risk of overpaying, paying a premium maybe that's too high. Last here is always, can't put enough always there. Use the most conservative or the lowest value after repairs. You're never, I shouldn't say never, but you're never going to be sorry for using the most conservative value. You will definitely be sorry if you think the property is going to be worth from $350,000 to $400,000 once it's fixed up, and you go with $400,000 and it turns out to be $350,000. There's $50,000 that, if that was your margin, it's eliminated, or if that was more than your margin, now you've just lost money. If you go with the $350,000, it's going to be a lot harder to lose money. There's three main tools for determining value. First is an appraisal, especially in today's market. That's going to be expensive, relatively. That could be $600, $700, $800 in today's market or more. So that's something that an appraiser provides, and they're going to provide a report, and the report will include a recommended price. So that's going to give you the appraised value. You can get appraisals that are after repaired value appraisals. Not all appraisers will do those, but even if you do order one of those type of appraisals, you're going to need to inform them as to what renovations will be done so that they can determine value. And again, after all that money and time of an appraisal, it's still one person's opinion of value. That's what it is. It's an opinion of value. So I've seen this happen many times. I've gotten appraisals, and the property didn't sell anywhere near the appraised value. Most of the time the appraisal was high, and the property sold for much less. So just because you pay money for it, a lot of money maybe, doesn't mean it's more accurate. The next is a comparative market analysis. You'll hear agents call that a CMA, or even just comps, comparable properties for short. Most agents won't charge to do this. They'll provide this as a service, of course, in hopes that they will get the listing when someone is selling. So this is really a shortened version of an appraisal. It's looking at properties with the heaviest weight on properties that sold recently, and the more like the property you're looking at or you have, the better. So the closer it is geographically, the closer it is as far as square footage, bedrooms, baths, etc., the better the comp is. And if there aren't properties that have been sold recently, then you can start looking at properties that are listed for sale or pending. And the less of those you find, the harder it is to really get accurate comps. So then you're really less confident of the value at that point. And then last is online value indicators. So these would be sites like Zillow, Redfin. There are some sites that we use that aren't available to the public, but certainly Zillow is the biggest that most people use. And well, that's better than nothing, but that's about it. So let's look at some of these tools a little bit more. Zillow, we talked about. Let's go ahead and go to Zillow, and just as an example here. And okay, to the property here just recently, or a property that's listed for sale. This property here on Kentwood Drive in Eugene. This happens to be a foreclosure, so it's a property that went back to the bank at the auction. They don't give a Z estimate here; they give a foreclosure estimate, just kind of like their Zillow estimate. So the basics here is a 3-bedroom, 3-bath, 1,800 to 20 square feet, and you can see some details there. So where do they get this number here? The Zillow number. Well, they get it from properties that have been sold, and so if we look down here at comparable homes, they give a range here, homes like this, and they have for sale comparable homes. So this is not going to be quite as valuable because they're not sold yet, so you don't know what they're going to sell for. And you can see that there's some details there. More valuable though is going to be the recently sold. So this will give you a little more idea of where they're getting their number, and you can see almost all of them are in a higher range, but that's where they're getting their number. Is they're taking the recently sold and they're just saying how much per square foot did that house sell for, and then they're just applying it to the square footage on the property that you're looking at. Now this is kind of nice. They tell on each property the relationship in bathrooms and square footage. So this one's one less bathroom and it's 311 square feet. So you can tell from that this property sold for $275. So perhaps our property be worth more. But again, the big factor is condition. So if we look at this property and we look at the pictures, we get an idea of condition. That's really going to tell the story there more than anything else. Okay, so that gives you an idea of Zillow and how Zillow works. See if I can get back to back here. Nope, don't know what happened there. Okay, well, Redfin is the most accurate tool that's available to everybody. So let's look at this same property on Redfin. See, 3205 Kentwood Drive. Oh. Okay. So you can see Redfin also gives their estimate, kind of like the Z estimate. But Redfin tends to be a little more accurate. Now, let's just, while we're here, let's look at the pictures here. So by looking at the pictures, you can see that nothing has been updated. The colors, just hasn't been updated, right? Just tired, or at least not updated. So this property was built in 1988. It probably hasn't been updated since. Now, if we go down here, this gives us information, more information on the property, and here we can look at nearby sold homes. Again, so this can give us an idea of value. Now, it even tells us here these properties sold at $175 per square feet. So if we just take this in our calculator, and ours is 1820, and times that by 175, we get 318. So they're saying it's probably worth 271. It's listed for 275. 318 if we look at what properties are selling for. So 318 is probably going to be closer to the after repaired value, because if we look at these properties that have sold, and let's find the one that's the closest that we can to a 1,800 square feet. See, we can't really find that, can we? It's within one bed and bath and within 100 square feet. It's tough. Let's just look, just for interest, to see if we can find one here that's even for sale. It's kind of unusual, a 3-bed, well, they should, 2.5, a 3, 2.5, 1,820 square feet. Here's 3, 2.5, and they're all going to be missing off by a little bit. Yeah, let's take this one as an example. 150 or something bigger. This already sold. We don't see all the pictures here. They may be on Zillow or another site. They're certainly on the MLS, but most people don't have access to that. But by looking at it, we can make some assumptions about the price. Here, updates since 2015, including paint, siding, kitchen, etc. So, when was it built? I don't see a handy when it was built, but probably updated, mostly updated. So that's going to be a lot closer to after repaired value. You can see too, the pricing, they started at $365, ended up selling it at $310, quite a bit less than they wanted. So that gives you some idea on price too. Year built 1996, so it's already 8 years newer to begin with. So that's going to be pretty close on price. And so, based on that property, we could say Ours, ours is, let's see, let me go back to the one we were looking at. Okay. So this one's a little bit bigger, but beds and baths are the same. This property's 150, let's say 150 square feet more. So at 177 a square foot times 150, that's 26,550. So pretty close, but we need to take another 26,000 off of our property. So if this sold for 310, then we'd say 385 or so, 384, or sorry, 284 for ours once it's fixed up, just as an example. Okay, let's go back here. And then the MLS, that's the most accurate tool, but it's only available to brokers. The biggest part that you're missing without MLS access is the pictures of the property once it's sold, so that you can determine the condition. All right, when we're looking at comparable properties, and you saw some of this when we were looking at Redfin and Zillow, most important characteristics are close to our house, the house we're selling or looking at purchasing. So it needs to be in the same neighborhood, or at least in the same type of neighborhood. So as we go from neighborhood to neighborhood, you'll notice that you cross value lines. So you go from, let's say, new construction to properties that are 10 years old, 20 years old, 30, 40, 50 years old. That's a value line. There could be a park, there could be railroad tracks, an apartment complex, something that changes the value of properties either up or down. So it really needs to be in the same type of neighborhood. A lot of times we rate neighborhoods from A, B, C, D, etc. A being a most desirable neighborhood and going down from there. So needs to be the same type of neighborhood in that respect. Similar size, that's square footage, should be within 100 square feet, ideally, in similar beds and baths within one bed or bath. And then the critical part is condition. It really needs to be in similar condition to be a good comp. And then when you look at each comparable property, you're going to adjust. Actually, that should say adjust according to each property. We're going to adjust our property, but we're going to adjust after looking at each comparable property. So is it in the same neighborhood, more or less desirable? So if the comparable property is less desirable, then we'll adjust ours up, our price up. If it's less desirable, or if it's more, we'll adjust ours down. Is the comparable property bigger or smaller than ours? And like in our example we looked at, it was bigger, so we need to adjust our property, our price down. More or fewer beds and baths. Again, if it has more, you adjust your property price down. If it has less, you adjust yours up. And then, is it fully renovated and updated? Is it new? That's where we adjust ours based on the condition. And that's mostly going to be according to the repair costs. And this is just what we talked about in more detail here. If the comparable property is better, we adjust our price down. If the comparable property is worse, we adjust our price up. Now, size is the most precise factor because we're talking about dollars per square feet. You'll notice that beds and baths are worth a certain amount. So if we go, let's go back to let's go back to this property, and our subject properties are 3, 2.5, 1820. So if you look at other sold properties, and here's where's a good example. Oh, these are all 3. Okay, so here's a these are all pretty similar. Here's a half bath less. So if we looked at and compared a lot of properties, we could see, oh, a half bath is worth so much, maybe $5,000 or something. If you look here, now these are listed for sale, they haven't sold yet. But here we have one more bathroom and some more square footage. So we notice a difference in price there. And these are all pretty similar, which is pretty good. These should be good comparable properties. They're similar. They're within one bath or even a half a bath, and they're pretty close on square footage. This one's got one more bed, but half bath less. And you can see it sold. It looks fully renovated or new. So that's definitely is a lot nicer than our subject property. Okay, step 2 is to estimate the repair cost. So before we dive into that, let's talk about the 3 types of houses in general.